Right guys, TouchPro back again today. Hope you're all having a good Wednesday so far. Today there's a number of things to talk about. The main one being the potential of Dashy being moved to the bench once again on this OpTic Gaming Los Angeles squad. Who could potentially be replacing him? Is this even a good move when everything does get confirmed? If it does in coming days, we'll talk about exactly those questions. But today, whether the possibility itself is viable for the OpTic Gaming Los Angeles team, especially given that next Monday, that is when the roster lock is. So there's only a few days left to finalize roster decisions. If you are going to, and given the very high chances now, it seems like the Champs is going to be played online. Probably a lot of players are looking at, or a lot of coaches and management staff are looking at their teams, looking at the New York Subliners, looking at Florida Mutineers, bringing in Mac, bringing in Awakening, and thinking maybe we should do a similar thing to our squad to step them up to the next level for the Champs that may well be online at the latter half of this season. So, like, if you guys enjoyed the video, subscribe if you're new. As always, I would greatly appreciate it to make sure you don't miss any of the latest competitive Call of Duty stuff. First of all, wanted to say apologies to Lunchtime for not, recognizing that this clip I had yesterday, I really didn't know where it had come from. This screenshot we talked about with the MP5, so big credit to Lunchtime for this one. Leave his channel link down below. I always try and give credit, so apologies that I missed this one. But also wanted to talk about Exclusive Ace's video that he did yesterday as well. A lot of you guys mentioning that, the fact that the MP5 actually, in terms of the 10mm rounds, may have got a decrease in recoil, supposedly in the long range. The gun actually does more damage now than it did with 10mm ammunition. However, the range has still been reduced quite significantly based on that Exclusive Ace video, effectively meaning that the MP5 is worse than it once was, and a lot of pros have decided that the Uzi is now the new meta. We see a clip of Shotzi using it here to some great effect on the Dallas Empire. This apparently is the class setup a lot of people are going with here at the bottom of your screen. So this is what a lot of the pros are using right now, or at least what guys like Shotzi are using in practice, and maybe the Uzi will become the new meta, because it definitely seems like pros are discovering how disgusting this gun can be right now. So much so that a lot of the top amateur players, including Parasite, have passed a vote, a gentleman's agreement, that just within their top North American amateur community hasn't necessarily been reflected in the pro community yet or in other regions, that these things are going to be banned. So 10mm, the 41 AE rounds on the Uzi, which make it even better than it already is, which is pretty much what all the pros are using, that apparently is going to be banned in top level amateur play. I wonder whether the pros will follow suit. Melee weapons as well, so you're not even allowed to use your knife anymore, supposedly that's going to be banned out of the game. And yeah, a lot of things here, so we probably can talk about gentlemen's agreements in coming days, but it looks like the Uzi has already been considered so strong that one of its attachments is being banned out of at least some of the competitive play. Also to mention, because it is pretty relevant when we talk about this Dashy stuff in a second here, Parasite and Fire, one of the teammates we talked about a few days ago with the Minnesota Rocker stuff, get a grip idiot, because he said that he was going somewhere or something and ended up teaming with Felony's team, so reputable amateur player now, former pro player of course back in the day. Triumph Gaming GG supposedly do some sort of salary, so that's why obviously Fire's so keen to go onto this team. But thought this was kind of interesting because Parasite obviously played with Fire, got him to the point where now maybe he can step up to, join one of the best teams in the North American Challengers region. And we see a very similar thing here with the player that is potentially right now scrimming with the OpTic Gaming Los Angeles instead of Dashy. So Depends comes out with this yesterday. Gunless for Dashy. Dashy is streaming on Twitch right now. So Dashy was streaming Warzone, and if you look closely at this image right here, you can see that Quavo Kenny is playing Domination on Hackney Yard, not joinable. So clearly the OpTic Gaming Los Angeles team was scrimming without Dashy in the starting lineup. Dashy has been pretty vocal last few days that he's going to be streaming more, that he's going to be making more YouTube content, this kind of stuff. And especially when we look back at some of the tweets after the most recent event from guys like Slasher and Kenny that kind of imply this. So this is what Cronut CDL comes out with. Can confirm OpTic Gaming are trialing at least one player out this week. Gunless isn't the one I've heard, but don't rule it out. When I can confirm the name with a few more sources, I'll let you know. We'll talk about that in a second. It isn't a trade. Dashy did say in his stream earlier you might be seeing a lot more of him, which sounds like more of him streaming, right, as Mythic says right here. So pretty interesting possibility. Now Kenny says on Twitter when they had their poor performance most recently, bad practice equals bad tournament performance. Our practice is what needs to change. Actual joke. We've had the same problem since day one and we can't improve at all because of it. Now this kind of lines up with what we saw Pac-Man, former coach of OpTic Gaming, talking about on the podcast earlier this season, kind of implying that Dashy is one of the core issues with the fact that they can't get good practice on this team. And look, the fact of the matter is, as talented a player as Dashy is, we have seen that similar things said about him on former teammates, the likes of Crimsix and TP and Karma to some degree, were having issues with him on the OpTic Gaming team last season. Clearly that seems to be carrying over to this season to at least some small degree at the very least. And apparently he was benched earlier this season. Chino came in. Was Jacob still going to be in the starting lineup? Then it turned out that Dashy was still in the starting lineup, and we thought, okay, maybe none of that really happened. However, now it very much does look like that's the case, right? If they are trialing someone else, is that going to make Dashy feel like, oh yeah, okay, sound guys, no problem at all. You can just try this like young amateur kid that we'll talk about in a second. I'm happy to step back in if you need me. It's probably not going to feel good on his, on his ego, I suppose, to be benched off the team for that. I can't imagine he's going to be rushing back into the starting lineup, even if the opportunity does present himself. And when it does, like, is he going to be going 110% in practice? Maybe not, right? So Slasher says, I wish I could speak my mind. And Dashy says, most recently, with Octane, of course, has been stepping up the YouTube game collab vid, kind of implying that Dashy is looking to get more involved in the YouTube streaming, Twitch stuff as of late. And maybe that implies something about what's going on here. So this was the update that Chrome comes out with. Update: Drazah is who I've heard being trolled by OpTic Gaming. Dashy is currently streaming Warzone while OGLA are scrimming. Drazah followed Chino on the weekend, was posted in my Discord a few days ago. So definitely looks like this could well be the case for Drazah. This was his career, well, he's played since like the Black Ops 4 days, but earlier this season in the Modern Warfare season on the UYU team, alongside Parasite at times, but some good results to be honest in a lot of these Challenger Cup, like 3rd place, 2nd place. Maybe wasn't one of the brightest, sparkling talents of the amateur scene that we've talked about, like some sibilance and stuff that we've discussed lately, but definitely a well-known individual in the amateur community. Seems to potentially be getting his trial, and just as I said, the fact of the matter is that it seems relatively likely that champs and especially the rest of the events of the season are going to be in an online environment. There's a lot of money to be won, and it makes sense that looking at what Florida and New York Sublands have done to improve their squads, that OpTic Gaming Los Angeles, a struggling team, would want to do something similar. Would Gunless even want to join this team and try and fix their problems? Is he even the solution, right? If you look at the Team Envy squad maybe last year, joined that squad not too long before champs, and it's not like that team was entirely turned around either. So look, is this the case? Does it make sense for the OpTic Gaming Los Angeles team to do this, right? Is Dashy the player you want to bench? And we talked about this a while ago and said, well, if you're going to bench Dashy, maybe you're kind of just shooting yourself in the foot, because he does have the potential to take over a great game and like drop a 1.2 in a series to a 1.3 in a series or whatever, but he hasn't done that lately, right? The most recent event, he had a horrible event, like a 0.6 in respawn, or 0.6 in hardpoint at least, I think, 0.6 in search and destroy, something not Dashy-like, right? And if he's going to be putting those numbers up on a consistent basis, because he hasn't had good events the last 2 events, right? It kind of makes sense to make a change if he is going to be the issue as well in terms of practice. So I don't doubt the move. I feel like other moves that we talked about with the Mac move and then the Awakening move would kind of questionable to some people. Well, it's clearly worked out for both of those teams. So I imagine OGLA are trying to do something similar. And, we'll talk about this more at the time if it does get confirmed over coming days. As I said, next Monday is when the roster lock finally does conclude for the season. Before we finish the video then, I wanted to discuss these emblems and all these, calling cards and that have been added into the game. So the Activision and the CDL have finally put the foot down and said, okay, Champs is coming out in a couple of months. This is what we want to release, and it's pretty cool to be honest. We haven't seen something like this in quite a long time. This is the branding for the 12 teams. This is the official ones, by the way. I'm not sure they're released yet, but they'll be coming in the coming days here. A few of them are kind of cool. I think the Atlanta phase one is somewhat well done. The Empire one is actually unbelievable. I guess Hastro had to sign off on this or whatever and gave it the go-ahead. But the Empire one, they actually have the router in there, so that's kind of entertaining. The London one is somewhat low effort. Not exactly a big fan of this. But yeah, some of these are really, really well done. I like the Seattle Surge one, I think, especially. So yeah, really, really cool stuff that they're finally adding this into the game. And there's even more to boot where that came from. So there's these sprays as well with the different ones. I think the New York one's kind of funny here. There's like a rat eating some pizza, so thought that was kind of nice. Once again, you got the router here on the Dallas Empire squad, so these are the sprays you can have. Then you have some emblems as well, so the Dallas Empire one again, the 6th Raven kind of going on here with the London team. So yeah, pretty cool stuff to be honest. Quite a big fan of that they're adding this stuff into the game. Then you've got this, which I thought was interesting as well. So this is coming soon as well, including the signatures that we'll look at in a second. But you get a legendary weapon M4, HDR M19 in terms of the camo. You can kind of see the gold and black here in terms of the CDL logo. The one that's really cool to be honest is the CoD Champs ring, and this might be indicative of something, right? Because in the past, if you guys are new to Call of Duty, if you win the World Championships in the past, you'll get a ring to put on your finger. Really, really cool stuff to be honest. One of the coolest things in Call of Duty esports. So it looks like that at least is going to be staying, right? If they're making the CoD Champs or CDL Champs 2020 ring and they're going to put it in the game, I imagine that's going to carry over to the CDL as it was in the CWL. The thing I'm slightly concerned about really is that the Call of Duty Championships trophy, the massive one that, obviously all the World Champions have lifted up at some point, That is such a legendary trophy, I think, in all of esports. One of the best trophies we have in esports. Certainly, you know, the ESL 1 Cologne trophy is very good, but the CoD Champs trophy to me has like a special place, and I think it's just fantastic. Is this trophy on the right-hand side here, that is currently a charm, going to be the actual trophy they have for the World Championships? Because it's kind of ugly, right? This is a box with the CDL logo at the top, but I would not be surprised if this is what ends up being what the trophy looks like for the World Championships. Not a big fan of it. Hopefully they bring back the old one, but I'm not incredibly confident they will. And just to finish up then, wanted to talk about these player signatures, which is what we have in CSGO, right? If you want to, well, for the majors, every team writes their signature, and this is really cool to see. Very much a big fan of this, because Kambo was talking about it a couple of days ago on the eavesdrop that you see a lot of people using the skins and stuff right now in the Warzone lobbies and in the CDL playlist. Maybe this is something to take that to another level, right? You could have Celium, or you could have Simp, for example, which would be kind of funny. I'm sure that will sell quite a lot on your weapon, and there's a few of them here. So you got the Celium one, the Hook one, Zuma, Octane. All of these are kind of well done. Some of the ones that I thought was kind of funny is Wuskins, rather. This W makes it, you know, it looks like it's been drawn by a 5-year-old. Clearly some of them have been done by their actual handwriting, trying to use a mouse on the computer, or maybe they've got like a stylus or something and actually typing it, whereas some of the players have just used like some you know, they've just used a font, right, and said that would do. And then you've got this one from Silly as well. Graphic design is my passion. But that's what I wanted to talk about today. Intrigued to hear your thoughts in the comment section below on all of this stuff. Like if you guys enjoyed the video, subscribe if you're new. As always, I would greatly appreciate it. More content to come. I'll see you next time.